Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girija. My name is Girija Patel. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a businesswoman. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girija, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girija and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat. I don't think I can talk enough about PR because PR is so essential to our businesses. And today I have a PR guru with us, Melinda Jackson. She is the owner of MJPR. She's packed with 10 years of experience and tackles PR, branding, and influencer marketing under her belt and a proven track record of helping her clients grow their businesses and careers. Welcome to Law Chat, Melinda. I'm so happy to have you on here. And I know that we were talking a little bit before we started, and your PR expands throughout so many different industries. And now you're actually really focusing a lot on women entrepreneurs as well. But you are also focusing on the different aspects of how PR is evolving. And so I'm really excited to have you here because, influencer marketing is obviously a thing and is proven to be a thing as well. So I really do want to talk to you about that as well, how brands can use influencer marketing for their advantage. But before we start that, welcome to Law Chat. And also tell us your story. Like, how did you become a PR guru?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I actually have a couple of female lawyer clients, so I always love to connect with you guys. You're just bosses. Anyway, so I started my career in Los Angeles. So I grew up in small town North Carolina, and after college decided that I wanted to move to LA. And it was around the time when The Hills came out, and I'm a year younger than all of those girls. So the show was happening like while I was living it. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that could be me. And I was a cheerleader at my college, and a bunch of the girls were communication majors, and they would go to LA in the summers for internships. And that just seemed so cool to me. And I was a history education major, and I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to move to LA. So I did right after college, and I moved there. I graduated in 2009, and that's during the recession. There's no jobs, like no one has any money. I knew no one. No one wanted to hire this little girl from a university they had never heard of in the middle of North Carolina. So I'd hustled. I did 3 internships at once. I took as many jobs as I could part-time just to survive. I was sharing a room with someone. I was sleeping on the floor. I was paying them $500 a month. Come to find out, I was paying their rent. They were scamming me.
Oh my goodness.
Whole thing, like everything that could have went wrong. Just total, nightmare. One day I'll write about it in a book probably. But yeah, I just hustled, and I knew that I had to make this work. And after a year and a half, I got hired on at a firm. I stayed there for about 5 years. I got offered other jobs at other places, and I probably, in hindsight, should have taken them. But I was all about loyalty, and my parents, conservative Christians from the South, were like, you work at the same place until you die. And that's what I thought you were supposed to do. I didn't know I was supposed to ask for more money. I just thought that this was normal. So then as a last ditch effort, I finally got hired at my dream PR firm. And I was so excited about it. And it ended up being the worst situation. 6 months later, I was burned out. And nothing against the firm. It was just a situation that I was in. And none of the people that I was involved with work there anymore. So I feel like I can say this stuff. But I just experienced such bad burnout. My mental health was very low. I could not function. I couldn't keep food down. And I was like moving back to North Carolina. So after 7 years in LA, moved back to North Carolina. and, left all the red carpets, all the Grammy Awards, all the things behind, all my celebrity clients, left it behind, moved to North Carolina to be closer to my family. I was a PR director at an advertising agency, decided, again, that wasn't for me, burned out again. And I just feel that was like God, the universe, whoever telling me I wasn't in the right place. I wasn't where I needed to be. And so I was being forced out because I couldn't physically remove myself from it. So I was being removed from it. So cut to 3 years ago, was like, now or never, I'm starting my own company. So I did. And within a week, I had 3 clients and I was already covering all my bills. I told my parents, like, watch, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. They said, no, find a job. Like, this isn't going to work. And they're entrepreneurs. So it's funny. It's funny that they say that because they're entrepreneurs. They're like, no, you need to find a job. You need to move back in with us. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm 30 at the time, like 32 years old. I'm not doing that. My old bosses told me no one was ever going to hire me as a publicist, that I didn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't succeed. 3 years later, here I am, my own company, made more money than I ever thought I could ever make in PR, have paid off all of my debt, have helped countless people grow their businesses during a pandemic, pivot their businesses. And I just know that, like, this is my life's purpose. It's what I'm supposed to be doing, and helping people tell their stories. And it lights me up. I love it so much. And that's a very long and convoluted way of saying that's how I got to PR, and that's how I'm here today.
We're actually going to go back and talk a little bit about the journey a little bit some more, but I got chills, and I'll tell you why. Because there's this thing where you got a lot of pushback from the people that you love and from people that you trust in or confide in. And not to say that their pushback was coming from a bad place. In fact, parents, their pushbacks are coming generally from a very good place, a place of concern, and a place of what's safer and, the fallback. But the thing is that when it just really just pronounced so much to me right now when you were saying it, that when people don't share the same vision as you, it's hard for them to walk alongside of you. Mm-hmm. And not that they're not walking alongside because they feel any malice or jealousy or anything negative. It's just that it's not their vision. Yeah. And because it's not their vision, they're not comprehending it. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just that it's your vision and you have to tackle it, and you have to, fight for it and kind of go through all the obstacles. And you may not be having the physical people next to you to do that, but you anchor yourself into something else that is far stronger than the physical beings that are around you. And I think that's, that speaks volumes on just the dreams that we have in our heart and how we pursue them. So when you did start, when you did move to LA and your degree was in
communications.
I changed
my major. Okay. Yeah. I changed my major. I was literally, I think I took one history class and I was like, nope, not doing this. But it's funny because all of my friends that I graduated high school with, that we were all going to be teachers together, they've now all changed their careers. Yeah. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. So
that's a whole other issue for another day of our education system in America. But
oh yes, gosh, I can. It is literally passion projects on my side, like that is just something that, another day, another conversation, but you were right. I'm like, oh my God, I can literally go down the rabbit hole of this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you moved to LA and you were working 3 different jobs, 3 part-time jobs, were they all in communications or were they just random stuff that was just kind of
So both. So I did 3 internships at once and none of them paid. And that was to try. I did a fashion PR internship, an entertainment PR internship, and then an events PR internship. So the events one was more like putting on red carpets and things like that. And then on top of that, so each of those, I probably did 10 to 20 hours a week separate, like each one. Then I worked at the mall. I worked at Forever 21. I was tray passing for a catering company. I coached cheerleading in the Valley at a high school. And none of the girls had ever cheered before. They didn't have shoes. They would come to practice barefoot. Like, I mean, they didn't have cheerleading shoes. They had shoes, but they didn't have like athletic shoes. I literally did everything I could just to try to make it work. Like, it was the definition of hustle. When I say I would take home cases of like soft drinks or whatever from the events that I would do, and that would be my groceries for the week, that is literally how I lived a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's incredible. And just to kind of point out that there is merit to doing a free internship, especially if it's in the space that you are wanting to pursue a career or pursue a business. Like, not every time is a paid internship the only way to go. Not that, of course, it's like the best way, but
Yeah.
the experience that you gain from doing something free, even, but if it's something that you really want to do, don't negate that. And I feel like sometimes, we're always like, oh, the money, the money. But at the end of the day, the experience is what will get you to the next level and also maybe help you for the next level, like prepare you for that. And so I love that, when you look back at that time, do you have any regrets, or do you have any like, man, that sucked, I wish I never did it? Or is it more like, gosh, I really learned a lot and some of those life skills are still coming with me?
Yeah, I'm glad that I had to hustle in the way that I did. I come from a very middle class family. I never wanted for anything. My parents are entrepreneurs. They made me and my brother work, but we always had what we needed. And I'm very, very lucky for that. So I had the work ethic, but then I still had the cushion. And so when I moved to LA, they were like, you're cut off. Like, when I tell people I was cut off, I've been paying my phone bill since I was 16. And my friends are 35 and their parents still pay their phone bills. And I'm like, what? But I had to hustle. And I'm so glad that my parents cut me off and that I didn't have that cushion, because I truly had to make it work. And I think now, I'm almost 35. 3 years into my business, 13 years into PR. Those times where I'm in the middle, where I'm like, my clients haven't paid me yet. What's going to happen? And I start to spiral. I'm like, no. I've come further and I've never had to worry about my rent. I'm not going to have to worry about it now. Yeah. And then it always comes through. It's trusting my gut, trusting in the universe, trusting God, whoever. It's going to happen because I'm doing the work. So all of that to say, yes, I have regrets, but I know if I would have done anything differently, I wouldn't be where I am now. Do I wish I would have taken some of those PR jobs at a huge record label? Absolutely. I could be running a PR division at a record label right now, but I wouldn't be where I am. And I wouldn't be able to help the people that I'm helping right now.
Yeah. And so I know part of your experience is also working with, Grammy winning campaigns. And so what was that? Was that with a company that you were working with later on after your internships?
So my internships, I only did those for about 6 to 8 months. And then I got hired part-time at one of the agencies. So that helped a little bit. But then I think around a year mark in LA, maybe about a year and a half, I finally got hired on somewhere full-time. So that was at my full-time firm that I was at for a majority of my time in LA. So that was when I really got the bulk of my experience and really got to dive in. And it was a small team. And so I had to learn fast, but I got to do so much. Right. I got to do a lot more than I probably should have been doing at the time, but I had to learn.
Yeah.
I truly taught myself PR.
Right. That's incredible. And then from there, you felt a shift. You felt a shift in yourself and you felt there was a need to change. So what did the burnout look like? Like, what were some of the things that were happening that were causing you to feel the burnout, whether it was what's around you or internally also? What were some of the things that were happening?
Yeah. So kind of what started it was, I realized where I was at the firm, it was going nowhere. There were a lot of signs that I don't want to get into that had nothing to do with me, but I was just like, this is my sign. Like, I got to get out. So I was applying for jobs, wasn't really getting anything. Finally got an interview at my dream firm, the one that I'd always wanted to work at. And then they strung me along for about 6 months. And so during that time, I was like, okay, what are my other options? Maybe I could move to Nashville and work in Nashville. I'll be closer to my family. I could still do entertainment. It'll be a little bit cheaper. I have friends there, whatever. Was hitting dead ends in Nashville. Was getting really far in interviews, but hitting dead ends. And then finally got hired 6 months later at my dream firm and went in guns blazing, was so excited. But I also knew that, I don't maybe have the skills that I thought I had because I was in this little bubble for so long and everyone does PR differently. And going from a small firm to a large firm that has everything like really tight and you go by the books, it was different. And there was a learning curve there. Plus, I think I was already a little burned out mentally and physically from my other job. And so I just went in at a deficit across the board. and I think my team wasn't as healthy. And this is a very known thing they had a very high turnover rate, and maybe my team wasn't as healthy as they should have been. And that was really hurting me as well. I didn't have that support system there anymore. And I am someone that suffers from anxiety and depression, and it just got extremely bad. Like laying on the floor in fetal position in my closet, like something's got to give. I can't do this anymore. And then that was causing me to screw up even more at my job. So I wasn't able to do my best at my job because mentally I was done for. And I was so afraid to make a mistake that I was making mistakes. And then I wasn't sleeping because the workload was more, but then also because I was so in my head. And so just across the board, it was just a bad fit. And you can't win for losing in those situations. So my burnout was literally mentally and physically. And I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't sleep. My body was in fight or flight, which is not going to help anything mentally. So it was just bad. But all of that to say, again, that was like a whole tangent. There were multiple things. And I think a lot of it too was just that go, go, go mentality of LA. And I didn't have any time to slow down. And I didn't necessarily have a solid support system there.
I think it's really nice that you were able to recognize it, even though it was going through very severe emotions of that roller coaster ride. But I think like what you're saying happens a lot more because there has been, now the narrative I feel like is changing. But even when I was in law school and then post law school, and even now, if you talk to any of these lawyers, like in big law firms, the idea is work, time off, that doesn't even exist. And when you do take time off, you're still working. And, the concept of taking time off for yourself for like just your mental health, your physical health is not a concept that was very much, focused on before, at least. And now things have changed, especially since COVID. People have taken that time off because of the default settings that we all went into. And so we've realized that there is so much value to that. And do you now incorporate that into your regular life, like your schedule of taking that time off or, pushing yourself away when you feel overwhelmed or you're getting to that stage of where, okay, things are not going to be okay anymore?
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now back to our awesome conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So at my last job in LA, I was a month into that job and my grandma passed away. And granted, she was like 92. It's one of those things, but it's still hard. And I had to fly across the country for it. They called me while I was in the funeral. I was in the funeral and they knew I was in the funeral and they kept calling me. Hey, we need this. And they actually didn't need anything from me. And so it's like, that's showing the mentality. And I know it's the same thing in the law profession. It's the same. And granted, every firm is not like that, but there were those token things that you see in the movies of like the publicist that just can't. And the same thing with lawyers, exact same narrative. It's like, oh, you can't get away. It's true. And then at my last job, I had kidney surgery and I had really bad kidney stones. And like, I had to push my surgery 2 weeks in all this pain because we had a client event.
Oh my goodness.
Could I have missed the client event? Absolutely. I had everything buttoned up. I did not have to physically be there. But instead, I'm on crazy pain pills that I'm not allowed to drive with. I'm on muscle relaxers. I'm on all these things just to get me out of like pain because I had to push my kidney surgery 2 weeks just for that. So yes, like all of that taught me, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And Like, I schedule into my day journaling and meditation every single morning. And I schedule in therapy sessions. And I'm very open and honest with all of my clients that, hey, I have anxiety and depression. This is something that comes up. It's not going to hinder me from doing my best job, but this is something that I struggle with. And I'm going to be very open and honest with you about it. And I want you to be honest with me if you have those same struggles. And I have clients who are like, girl, I cannot get this interview back to you because I am just tapped out and this is what's going on mentally. And I've been having panic attacks all day. I'm like, do not worry about it. How can we fix this? And so, yes, I try to schedule in that time for myself. And when I see myself getting a little burned out or feel myself like I'm getting a little too amped up, I'll go on a walk or I go to the gym. I just try to get my body moving to get myself out of that physical state. I've gotten a co-working space because I was working at home and I realized, oh, I'm just like way too in my head here. I need to physically get out of this environment. So yeah, I absolutely try to do those things.
That's incredible. And I thank you so much for being so open and honest with us, because I think a lot of us go through different degrees of that kind of, stress levels that we might have. And sometimes the season might be where you're feeling it more or less. Number one, there is just no shame in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like if it's happening, recognize it, but then also try to figure out where it's stemming from. So that way you can make some changes. And I love that you were so candid with us about your experiences and the workload, and then also the demand on your time from a third party. And at the end of the day, when you're working so much for somebody else's success, and yes, it's your success in certain ways too, but ultimately it's that other person's success, and that success is happening at your detriment. There is a trade-off on your end. And so when that was happening, and if there is somebody out there who is kind of struggling with this also, and struggling in their company or wherever they're working with this kind of demand on their time, is there a way that you could suggest for them to handle that or help them move on from that?
Yeah, I think this is really blunt and it sounds really mean, but the people you work for do not care about you. Like they don't. And they do, but they don't. So like you have to be your number one priority across the board. It's the whole saying of like, you have to put on your oxygen mask before you help somebody else. That is so true. And like, you are not going to be at your best if you are not putting yourself first, and not in a selfish way, but if you're feeling like you're burning out, if you're feeling like you need the time, if you feel like you need some extra tools, it's okay to take that time. It's okay to ask for them and to be open and honest with the people that you're working for or working with, and just say like, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And if they don't support you, find somebody that will. But you have to be your number one priority, absolutely across the board. And it is hard, kind of what you said about the, realizing that I'm working so hard for other people's successes. And that is really hard. And that's something that I think 13 years in, I'm just like, okay, it's okay if I get rejected. It's not rejected for me. It's just the story. And then it's also hard because I'll have these big wins and I'm like, but that's not my win. It's so I have to kind of separate myself from it a little bit, but it is hard, and hard not to take it all personally a lot of the time.
Yeah. And, like most of my guests that are coming on here are entrepreneurs, just like you. They have their own businesses. And then I do have some guests who are thriving and, in their industries, and they're leaders in their industries as well. So whether you are somebody who's working for yourself or has your own business and has a team of people working for you, or whether you are part of a team in a company, there is a fine line between, doing something and working up the ladder versus burning yourself out and, sacrificing yourself at the end of the day. And honestly, I personally believe that we know when that's happening. We just don't want to acknowledge it.
Yep.
And so, yes, ultimately, if you are working for a company, you are working for a bigger thing than you. You're working for the bigger outcome than you. And you're going to get a little part of that pie, but not the whole pie. And when I said earlier that, you're working for somebody else's success, yes, you are. But like, if you do a project and you do really well on it, that's a win for you. And it's also a win for your experience that you're putting under your belt as well. So there is merit to it. But at the same time, I think it's really important for us to kind of start knowing the boundaries and also knowing the signs. And it takes time. When the younger you are, the harder it is to, figure it out. And then of course, like you went through all that experience. Now you know the differentiators between this is healthy and this is not healthy for me.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head with boundaries. Like that is something that I've had to learn in my old age. Boundaries are real and I have to keep them. And my family, it's weird because I am best about boundaries with my family and they see it sometimes as me being rude. I'm like, this is self-preservation. Like, nope, I've got to have my boundary. And I'm better about that now with friends and clients. And sometimes like I had a friend situation where I was like, I cannot have you in my life right now. I just cannot do it. This is too much. This is codependent. There's a lot going on. Let's just not for a while. And kind of same thing with clients. You know, I'll have clients that call me at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, this isn't even office hours. What are you doing? Like, no, I don't care. And they're like, well, no, email me. This can be an email. I'm not going to answer you if you call. So it is okay to have boundaries. It's going to be the best thing for you at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So moving forward a little bit, I wanted to know what were some of the bigger challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
I'm trying to think, like, do you mean just in general or in terms of like starting my own business?
You know, it could be anything actually in general.
Okay.
I mean, I know that you've had a pretty eventful,
Yeah.
like journey leading up to starting your own business, but even starting your business, let's talk a little bit about that transition from when you were working to starting for your business. Was that transition like easy or was it something where you were questioning yourself? How did that work?
It was easy because I absolutely knew in my gut it was what I needed to do. And I trusted my intuition and I did not listen to other people. And I found that, you know, the times where my gut is telling me one thing and everybody else is telling me something else, and I go with my gut, it's always right. And it always works. It's the same thing that happened when I moved to LA and everyone told me not to, and I did. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. But I was really lucky that, you know, I'm one of those people, I collect people everywhere I go and I'm good about networking. And so the second I told people I was leaving my job, I had potential clients coming out of the woodwork to work with me. And so within a week I was set, you know, I had enough clients to pay my bills. So I felt really comfortable. But then that transition was hard because I was like, oh, I don't have to be chained to a desk 9 to 6 every day. And sometimes even longer. I can kind of come and go as I please. My 50% is most people's 100%. It's okay, you know, and I can, as long as I'm getting my job done, it's okay if I go on trips or work remotely or whatever else. And then I think another hard thing in terms of finding clients was not saying yes to everybody just out of scarcity mindset, finding clients that were quality and that were actually going to pay me what I was worth, not clients who were going to pay me half of what I was asking for, but then demand 3 times what I should be doing for them. So that was another boundary that I had to really work towards and come across and being like, no, actually, this is how much I'm worth. And this is what I'm going to provide for you. And this is what our agreement is going to look like, and just not taking whatever. So I think in summary, it's like not being so nice at the beginning just because you're afraid you're not going to have any clients coming through. That was hard for me, but I got burned a couple of times and then I was like, this is stupid. Like, no, I'm not taking it anymore.
Yeah. It's a real fear though. You know, it's a real fear. All of those are real fears when you're starting a business, but sticking to your guns and knowing that this is the right track will definitely prevail over the fears once you start doing it. And then the fears start dissipating too, because you realize that, okay, it's really a lot bigger in my head than in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So when you started your PR firm, did you have clients at that time, a few of them, or like existing clients, or is this something that you just had to really start up from the ground up?
Yeah, I mean, I started from the ground up. I had someone who I was helping out a little bit on the side while I was still at my other firm, and I told them about it and they were kind of weird, but I'm like, it's somebody that lives in DC. It's not even a competition for us. The money wouldn't even be worth it. It's not even something that you guys provide, you know, whatever. And so they didn't really care because it wasn't going to make them any money. So that kind of gave me the confidence that, oh, I can ask for other people. And then once I started kind of like putting the bug in people's ear, like, hey, I just put in my 2 weeks today. I'm going to do my own thing, I think. Then people started referring others to me. So I would say 99% of my clients have been through referrals.
Oh,
which is I'm very fortunate.
I honestly believe the word of mouth is the best marketing out there because it comes from a place of trust and it comes from a place of where people don't question it too much.
Exactly.
They don't, because if they're trusting the person who's voicing it, it's sold. Like there's hardly what to do about it.
Yeah. I mean, it literally is public relations for myself.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about public relations. I know that's what you have been doing for the last 13 years, you said.
Yeah.
And the last 3 years with your own business. So what are some of the things that somebody who is starting now, there's different phases that, a company is in, so their PR might be a bit different, but if you were just starting a company, what are some of the things that you would suggest with regards to PR? And should we go hire a PR consultant at that time for a business?
Yeah. So these are like the number one questions that I get. So if you're just starting out, you probably don't need to hire someone unless you have the budget and unless you have something that's just huge that you absolutely need help on. So like if you're launching a product and you are about to be in like 50 stores, you probably need somebody to help you out a little bit. But if it's just a slow roll, there's a lot of small things that you can do for yourself to get the PR ball rolling until you're ready to have somebody to bring somebody else on board. So I generally tell people just start small and don't be afraid to start small. So, reach out to your local newspaper and introduce yourself to the editor and say, hey, I'm Melinda. I have this company. We're about to launch, or we just launched. Here's what we do. I would love to talk to you a little bit. And don't be afraid to also dive into your personal story because people want to hear that. And that's what is going to help the readers connect to you and buy into your brand a little bit. So, are you a working mom? Are you disabled? Are you a military veteran? Things like that you can also tie in that would really be interesting to people. Make sure you tell that story. So again, just start small, start local. Reach out to local newspaper. Is there a local lifestyle morning show on your CBS or your Fox station that you can reach out to? Local radio show that all your friends listen to? A local lifestyle publication that comes out monthly that is like the free one at the grocery store that everybody reads. Reach out to those people. Are there local bloggers, like we said, influencers? Are there local bloggers or Instagram influencers that always post about local businesses or local entrepreneurs that you can reach out to and say, hey, I would love to just chat with you, figure out if there's a cool way for us to cross promote, things like that. So just don't be afraid to tell your story, be really comfortable with it, have it really tight and buttoned up. And don't think that you have to send your life story in 50 pages to somebody. It can be a very simple email with 3 to 4 talking points and a couple of links and say, would be happy to hop on a call with you to talk a little bit more. Yeah. But it's really not that hard to get it started.
Yeah. I think the cold call emails are actually quite beneficial. Now, quick question. I know you talked about, the local lifestyle, like the channels on the news that come on. So in Houston, we have those. And whenever, we have looked it up for some other, actually not for my business, but for some other companies, generally you have to pay them.
Yeah. There are some that are pay to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're always going to ask you to pay. Just say no. Unless you have the budget and you want the 3 minutes of it. And sometimes there are times where it is beneficial to pay. But if you are a small business, you don't have to do that. And there are some clients where I will be like, hey, this is going to be really good for us. We need to pay for this. Because in those situations, you pay them the couple of $1,000s or however much it is. And they give you 3 minutes of airtime and you get to say whatever you want, And so that is really beneficial. And it's better than a commercial. It's going to be 30 seconds that people are going to flip through. So I think it's beneficial. But if you're a small business, not all the segments on I think it's like Good Morning Houston or Good Day Houston. I've worked with them before, whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's Good Day Houston or something.
Yeah. So there are segments on their show that's not paid. So I think it kind of all goes about how you pitch them. And if you do it from the story angle and you're just like, hey, I would love to kind of come on and tell my story or whatever. If they say, hey, here's our paid options, it's okay to say, I actually don't have the budget for that. Are there any other options that you guys might have that we can work on a story together? Or is there another producer, maybe the noon producer or the night producer, the evening show producer? Would they be willing to do a story for me? Because I don't have this budget.
Okay. I love that tip because a lot of times that is a situation. You don't have that budget. And I think another thing that you spoke about is that look at where you are placed in the time of your business. Are you launching something or are you just kind of hanging out and you just want to talk about your business? But if you're launching, it might be beneficial to actually pay that because as part of your marketing budget, which should already be part of your line item. But it's kind of going, the impact for that purpose would be a lot deeper than just going on without anything happening in the background that you're promoting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's when it's really beneficial where you're like, okay, I know that this is my demographic. And generally the demographics for those lifestyle shows are stay-at-home moms and they're the decision makers. So is that your target audience? If it is, heck yeah, pay that money because that will get you a really good relationship with the station. And because you paid, they will probably want to put you on the evening show. And so you won't have to pay for that one. If you're already kind of invested in the station, they will treat you well and they'll put you on their social and they'll put you on the website and put you on the other shows.
Right. Oh, lovely tips on that. Now, say you're a little bit more of a mature business and now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need to do PR. What are some areas of focus that you would say for PR? Because PR, I feel like is a pretty big term and there's a lot under that umbrella. So is there a way to break it down? Is there a way to really have razor sharp focus on different areas in your business?
Yeah. So I think it really depends on what your overall goal is. Are you trying to sell a product? If you are, okay, the PR campaign is going to look a little bit different than somebody who is trying to position themselves as a thought leader. So, a product campaign would be like, okay, let's get on product roundup segments. And those are generally paid. And those are the ones that you see on the lifestyle shows. Or
like the Today Show.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So things like that. And they have them locally, like on most local lifestyle shows. I know they have them in Houston. I've done them in Houston for clients before. So is that something that you could get in on? Are there local influencers or just influencers in your target demographic that you could align with and send product to? Is there a holiday gift guide coming up that you could try to get into? Those types of things. Or one thing I see for a lot of my more corporate clients or more established business clients is, okay, I am the CEO of this company. I've built this baby from the ground up, but nobody knows that it's me. Okay. So that's when you kind of transition into the thought leadership of it all, because it's still going to help the company, but it's going to sell you as a thought leader. And then I would try to get my clients on podcasts. I would try to get them op-eds. I would try to get them quoted in things that, have to do with what their business is, but then also telling their backstory. How did they get to where they're at right now? So like me doing this interview, that's a thought leader piece. I'm talking about my life and what my expertise is. So I try to position my clients a lot of times like that, especially if what we're doing currently for their company isn't really working. So we pivot it to the thought leader piece to sell to the person because the company will still benefit from that.
That's really good advice. And I like how you differentiate between thought leader and product sales or services, just like pure selling and, awareness of your product or your business. And what are some other tips that you could be giving, just in general for PR? What are some things that you could run with?
Yeah. So one thing I always tell people is just to make sure your brand is tightened up and that across the board, it's very consistent. So if you're posting one thing on Facebook and you're posting something else on Instagram and it just does not coincide, like you got to get it tight, because even if you try to pitch or you have somebody like me pitching you to the media and they go to your social media and they're like, what is this? Like, this is a mess and none of this is consistent. They're not going to want to do anything for you, or they're not going to want to share whatever you're doing. So just make sure the messaging and the branding is consistent. Even like the look and feel of it is consistent, because if it's not, people are going to think you're messy and they're not going to want to touch it. And you're also going to confuse the consumer. So I always just tell people, try to button up, what you're doing. And then again, like I said before, if you don't have the budget for PR, just start small, and it does not hurt to ask. It's okay to email the TV station or the local editor at the newspaper or whatever. You can generally find local contacts very easily. And I say local because that's the easiest to start.
Right.
You are not going to come out the gate and get on the Today Show. It's just not going to happen. And it's hard to get people there. Everyone's pitching them. But if you snowball effect and you start small, start local, keep going from there, then there's a very well chance that NBC National could pick you up based on something NBC Local did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to start small and to just reach out. And I know people get a little weird about that and they feel a little unworthy. Just try. Try.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And it doesn't have to be this beautiful buttoned up pitch. Sometimes I send out stuff that looks very bootleg, and it is okay because I know these editors and they just want the bare bones of the story. That's all it is. They just want the key points. They don't want to have to sift through stuff.
So talking about the letter, what are some of the essentials that you would include in that pitch letter that you're sending out?
Yeah. So obviously make sure they know who you are, what you do. It's basically when, where, what, why kind of thing. Like who you are, what you do, any links to anything. Try not to attach anything because that's going to get caught in the spam filter. They're going to get annoyed by it. Link to a Dropbox, link to a Google Drive, and then have 3 to 5 talking points generally. So, especially if you're a thought leader, say, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. This is what we do. Here's a little bit about me, a couple sentences. Here's some things I can speak to. I can speak to burnout. I can speak to growing your business during COVID. I can speak to this. I can speak to that. And just give them the options. So then they will then choose what they could talk to you about or see if you're a good fit for anything they're working on so they could include you in that. So it's really simple. It does not have to be this like long drawn out thing. It doesn't have to be beautiful and fancy. Just say who you are, what you do, what you want to speak about, and some links. That's all you have to add.
Awesome. And if you have a media kit, then attach it as a link, but not as an attachment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because spam filters are starting to catch everything. So if it's like a one sheet, that's fine. But if it's longer, because the one sheet generally will kind of be in the body of it and it's fine. But if it's like a larger attachment, I would link out to it. And that's just going to be easier on everybody because you can just copy and paste and send it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, just amazing tips. Amazing tips. Like sometimes people just don't even know where to begin with that letter.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say hi? It's intimidating to see a blank piece of paper and then, wanting to pitch to somebody who doesn't even know you. It's like, let me just pick up the phone maybe, but then that's even worse.
No, do not call. No one wants anyone to call. I don't want anybody calling me. You don't want anybody calling you. Do not do it. And like, I mean, I'm this far in and I still get nervous about pitching people. And at some point I just have to say, screw it. I'm just going to send it. Like, whatever. I just got to get it out and just get it out. And another thing I always say is wait about 2 to 3 days before you follow up.
Yeah.
And you might not hear anything the first email you send. Do not get discouraged. Nobody sees their emails. They're getting a million emails a day. They'll see the follow up and generally they'll say yes or no. And if they say no, that just means you're closer to a yes because it really is a numbers game.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you have encouraged me, number one. So thank you for that. And you've given such wonderful tips on, who to reach out to and then how to reach out also. And I love the small thing of just even don't send attachments. I don't think people think about that. And it's just the small nuances that can be a game changer sometimes. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. Now, this is a legal podcast, so to say.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any encounters where you were like, gosh, I really wish I'd done that legally? Or you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah. I think very, very early in my career, like I was trying to do some freelance stuff in LA and there was someone who tried to say they were going to sue me over something and it like freaked me out very badly. And I was like 23 and I was just this little girl and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to sue me. They're going to sue me. And they were probably 20 years older than me and they were just bullying me. But then I had friends who were lawyers and they looked at it and they're like, this person can't do anything to you. They're just being mean. Like they're just taking advantage of you. And then after that, I think I've just been like, okay, whatever. Because I think in PR, people are always like, oh, I'm going to sue them if they say this. I'm like, I know what the laws are that you can't do anything. So
yeah,
I've kind of had to, especially entertainment law and things like that, I've had to kind of brush up on. and figure out. So that was my only scare, knock on wood. Anything else, I'm just like, people are stupid. I'm not bothering with it. I normally have a pretty good radar of when things, especially because I've had so many clients that are lawyers, I catch up on things pretty quickly if like I know, oh, this is going to be a legal issue or if it's not. But generally I try to just stick really, really clean in my corner. No gray areas.
It's experience that really helps also to know, you know, the red flags of the law that are coming through. So I haven't asked this question in a while, and then now I'm thinking why I haven't done it. Not to you, but just in general. But I love asking this question, and it's just basically like, what is your anchor in life when, you know, things are just going haphazard? What holds you steady?
It's funny that you say that because I literally have an anchor tattoo.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's really just my routines. My therapist and I call it my safety scaffolding. But and sometimes it's bad, but sometimes it's good. And it's really knowing like, okay, things feel like a mess today. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I take myself out of the situation. I physically remove myself from it. I go on a walk. I go and meditate. Even if it's for 10 minutes, I listen to a guided meditation. I have to do guided or else my brain's going to go all over the place. I'll do a guided meditation. I'll journal it out. Even if it's just a page of me writing, like, I hate everyone. This is stupid. I hate everyone. Burn it all down. You know, just getting it out and just changing the momentum of the day. That helps me so much. And then again, like I keep saying, just trusting my intuition and knowing that I'm protected and that I'm smart and I can handle any situation that comes my way and that I've gone through so much and I've come out the other side, like it is okay. So basically all of that to say is, I think to sum it all up is really my spirituality and just my routines, my like self-care routines.
So important. Always. And before we say bye, a couple more things. One, what is a book that you would suggest the audience to read or the listeners today that it's like, you're like, this is the best book ever?
Okay. This has nothing to do with like business or anything, but one of my favorite books is Norwegian Wood. And I can't say his last name. It's Japanese, but it's very, very good. I think it's one of the most real depictions of how mental health is. There's a few characters in the book that struggle with mental health, and I just think it's so beautiful. And I buy that book for everybody. It's just so good. So Norwegian Wood, I think it's Makamuri. It's his last name. I probably murdered that, but I don't know.
We'll have that as a link.
Yeah. It's very, very good. It's also one of Obama's favorite books. So if it's good enough for Obama, it's good enough for me.
Of course. And then how can people reach out to you and say hi?
Yeah. So I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet. It's Melinda Jackson PR. So melindajacksonpr.com, at Melinda Jackson PR on social media. I'm really bad about updating my company social media. My email is very easy. It's just melinda@melindajacksonpr.com. So I'm very easy to find. If anybody has any questions, I also do consulting calls. So I'm here for that as well.
Wonderful. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes as well. And thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all of your wisdom and all of your experiences. Truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girija. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.